We people, we like to share our success. Just go to Facebook and you see all those pictures of your friends that are traveling all around the world and post all those pictures that they're standing in front of a landmark. Just go to YouTube and you see people like me who visit all these places like Petra, where we are now. But you know what's even more interesting sometimes is actually to watch failures of someone else. So today we're going to talk about our biggest failures in language learning. Keep watching. Hey, hello everyone, my name is Jan van der A and today I'm talking to you from Petra, one of the wonders of the modern world. And just take a look at the scenery here, isn't that great? Yeah, but let's talk about failures this time, about the things we're struggling with, because here at Language Boost we talk a lot about our successes. You see us speaking a language after a few months, also about our student successes, but you know, we have failed many times in language learning as well. So today I'm going to share with you 3 languages that I tried to learn but I actually failed at. Now, the first language I failed at was Indonesian. Back in 2010, I spent 6 months in Indonesia. I had the opportunity to do an exchange program abroad. I went to Surabaya, a city in Eastern Java, and I spent 6 months there. I went to school, was a local university, and they were not really prepared for international students yet. Me and the Polish friend, by the way, we were the first international students that they had. So what that meant is basically they didn't have any courses in English. Everything was in Indonesian. And so that was a big challenge for us. We didn't speak Indonesian. It's just a drone flying around here all the time, but I'm going to continue with this video anyway. So that was very... That was not very easy to follow the lessons. Everything was in Indonesian. The students were very curious. They were trying to speak in English to us, but their English wasn't very well either. And then, of course, the teachers, they weren't used to international students. So they also had a very hard time switching to English, and actually they ended up speaking Indonesian 80 or 90% of the time during the lessons. And I thought that was going to help. That was going to help me, that was going to help to speak Indonesian quickly. So I went to Indonesia, I was prepared for this big adventure, and I was convinced that I was going to become fluent in Indonesian in only a few months. Now, during the first week I attended these lessons. Most of them were in Indonesian. But even after a few months I found out that actually I was still not able to understand everything. And the reason for this, we talk about this in another video, is I basically didn't have comprehensible input. So comprehensible input, we talk about this in other videos, basically means that you can only learn something new once you understand like 80 or maybe 90%. I didn't understand anything. Now, additionally to those lessons in Indonesian, I also had Indonesian lessons, beginner lessons. We had to learn some dialogues, but this was basically taught the same way as languages are taught at school, and that was not the way it worked for me. I didn't feel that like the words, the vocabulary that they were teaching me was very useful. The result, after 6 months of being an international student in Indonesian, attending all these lessons in Indonesian, I did not speak Indonesian. And Indonesian is a very simple language compared to Chinese or even the European language. It has very simple grammar, but yet in 6 months I was not able to learn this language because I was basically using the wrong approach. So the lesson that you can take away from me sharing this experience with you guys here is start with the start, basically. Start with the with important vocabulary, making sentences, and then gradually you can keep adding new vocabulary, and once you get better you can start listening to native content and learning that last bit of vocabulary that you're lacking. But if you do it the other way around, it's not really gonna work. I had another viewer here on YouTube lives in Thailand, and he said, Jan, I have many Thai friends here but don't speak English very well, they are a beginner, would you recommend them to watch the BBC? And I said, if they are a beginner and they cannot even manage to hold a simple conversation, I don't think that watching the BBC is gonna help a lot. They better start focusing on building simple sentences, adding vocabulary, and then gradually improve. Okay, so Indonesian was the first language I failed at. Then the second language I would say was Spanish. This was in 2009, 1 year before that, actually 2007. Whew, I'm getting old, more than 10 years, it's more than 10 years ago. I went to Costa Rica, I was super enthusiastic and I was convinced that I was going to become fluent in Spanish in only a few months. I went to a language school where I took lessons for 8 weeks. And actually, the teachers were not bad. It was like this small international community. I went to a language school in Nerelia and also to Samara on the west coast. It was very nice. It was the first time for me. I was 19 years old. First time for me abroad without my parents. Super excited. But again, I had never learned a language successfully. I was still struggling with English at the time, and I basically had not developed my own approach yet. So yes, I was studying the vocabulary, I was studying the days of the week, all the colors, but again, a lack of practicing how to make sentences. So after 3 months in Costa Rica, I also did a month of voluntary work there. I was not able to hold a simple conversation in Spanish. Big disappointment. I wasted thousands of euros and a lot of time. Of course, I did have a great experience in the country, but for the language, I really did not have to go to Costa Rica. So Spanish, another language I failed at. Later on, I also learned Portuguese and French, and I did some traveling in Latin America, and my Spanish got a little bit better. It's still not one of my strongest languages. Now, the last language that I want to share with you here is, I failed at, is Japanese. I took part in the @1 challenge a few years ago, and I set the challenge for myself to learn Japanese or to become conversational in Japanese in only 3 months. And I actually think that I did a pretty good job. After 3 months, I was able to hold a 10-minute or 15-minute conversation with a tutor on italki entirely in Japanese. It was very basic, but it worked out pretty well. And this was a little bit later on my language learning journey. So I spoke some languages already. I spoke Chinese, which helped a little bit. From the first time I thought, okay, this is a big success. I was speaking Japanese, and you can even find that video of me speaking Japanese after 3 months here on this channel as well. But then what happened afterwards? At the time I was pretty motivated to learn Japanese. I was actually dating a girl in Fukuoka in the south of Japan, which is of course a huge motivation to learn a language. But after that, things didn't work out, and I didn't really have the reason anymore to learn Japanese, and I didn't see the point of continuing with the language. And over time, I didn't maintain it. I forgot it. No, I can still remember some words here and there, but it's not a language that I learned successfully. So lack of motivation, that's basically the reason. So the reason I failed at these languages, well, for Indonesian it was clearly no comprehensible input. I was overwhelmed with the language. For Japanese, lack of motivation, and for Spanish I did not have a clear system. I was focusing on learning vocabulary, learning the grammar, learning the conjugations, not focusing on learning how to build sentences. Well, if you recognize yourself in this, maybe it could be interesting for you to have a look on our website, where we have an ebook where you learn how we over time improved our method to learn languages. We also organize boost camps for people who really want to learn language in a structured way, where you really start with the vocabulary. We basically teach you in building blocks. So in the beginning it's very easy, and gradually we start adding new grammar features, new vocabulary, and we focus 100% in conversation. Something I didn't do when learning these 3 languages, except for Japanese, but again, lack of motivation. Now, I have one question for you. Which language did you fail at? Let me know in the comments below, and then see you next time here on Language Boost. Bye bye.